Hello and welcome to 4,000 and Counting, brought to you by Hurricane e-bikes. We are back from vacation. I'm Watty, this is Mark. We are joined by the Calder Cup champion, by a U20 World Junior champion. He is just about to head over to Russia and play in the KHL. Zach Fucale is joining the 4,000 and Counting podcast. Goalie nerds, you're going to love this one. He was drafted 36 overall by the Montreal Canadiens. French Canadian boy with Italian, Sicilian, right, let's try that. Sicilian roots. Sicilian roots. I know I can speak. We've got it all going on, ladies and gents. I can't wait for this one. It's going to be fun. Zach, thanks for joining 4,000 and Counting.
Thank you.
We were touching on your roots off air. Super interesting background. I will let you tell the people about you, like your Yumi and was it Yumi 23 or whatever, when you go right back?
Yeah, ancestry, whatever. I did a lot of work with that, and then you touched on the Sicilian background. Yeah, my father's side, my grandparents came in 1959, straight from Sicily, and they took a boat all the way to Halifax, Nova Scotia, Eastern Canada. And funny enough, that's where I ended up playing junior hockey for 4 years. Which is wild because that's where my grandparents came from Italy, and on my mother's side, it's more like French Canadian, going back to France and some Scottish, some little English. But yeah, I did a lot of work on that, the Italian roots and Sicilian in particular, because that's our family. And yeah, I got all the way to like 1700s, like 1720s, 1760s. It's pretty wild. It's like it's cool once you dive in there.
I take it you're the first hockey player then.
From what I know, yeah. From what I know, maybe there's someone somewhere that I missed, but from what I know, yeah, from the Fucales, yeah.
So obviously you've had success with Canada as a junior. Obviously you had major junior career, U20s career. Was it ever something that was on your mind, perhaps ever representing Italy at some stage with that heritage?
In the last couple of years, it's crossed my mind a lot because Italy's hosting the Winter Olympics in Torino in 2 years.
That's what I was thinking.
And for like at least a good year and a half, 2 years, they've been actively kind of, I'm not going to say like recruiting, but like
Facebook stalking you.
Yeah, like actually trying to see like, hey, like you have Italian background, like Italian last name, like can you get your passport? Does your father have your passport? You know what I mean? Like they've been kind of seeing.
Started liking posts on your Instagram from 2017 and shit. Like you're like, okay, they want me real good.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is they're trying to set up the team to have success in the Olympics, since they're going to be part of it. And turns out I can't represent Italy ever playing hockey because I've already represented Canada. So you can't.
Is that because of the Spengler Club or because of the U20s?
No, because I think it's because the U20, U18s. Like you can't. I don't think you can do that. Like kind of switch. So I didn't know that at the time, but I don't think that would have influenced my decision. I think, representing Canada for me, being born here is way more kind of representative of my life than like from my heritage. You know what I mean? Like I'm born here. I get to represent my own country. I think that's better, but not that I wouldn't have represented Italy. It would have been fucking insane, right? Like,
yeah, cool.
But it is what it is. For me, I'm out of that. And I know a couple of my buddies, they actually signed contracts in Italy to play for the next 2 years so that they could be eligible. There's no guarantees, but they could be eligible to play and represent.
You should have saw them when they got promoted in GB. They were the fucking drunkest human beings on the planet Earth. Them in GB went up back to Pool A, back to play against Canada, America, all the top boys. And they come on the ice to get their medals in the closing ceremony, but obviously they had the early game and then they were done. So they just obviously been getting sauced all day, and they come on to get their medals at the end of the game. Just the drunkest guys having the best time ever. And I was like, do you know what? There's going to be some guys that want to get involved with that mix, like yourself, other Italian Canadians. because you're kind of in the very same boat as the UK, as Team GB, Mark, where we're right there in that kind of we're up, we're down, we're so close to just
Like
being there.
in the second division, you're like really strong, like
Yeah,
you're competing for the medals all the time. Yeah, there's a few countries like that where they have a compete level that's high, but to stick in the first group, it's really hard. Like it's
depth,
really there's
right?
a
It's
few countries, but that's what makes it
Depth.
you
kind of
need depth.
competitive in the second.
Speaking of goalies in Italy, did you see in the draft this year? Italy have just had their first goalie drafted to the NHL.
No,
in the NHL, no way.
Damian Clara. Damian Clara, his name is. He
I did
played
not
in
know
the
that.
Italian. Yeah.
I love doing this
Damian-
podcast with you. You tell me some random shit that I would have never have known. Go on.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, having a
60th
research
overall.
guy on your team like that, it's good, man. It's good.
So
You need
good.
that.
Love
But
that.
where did he play? Did he play in Italy or in Switzerland or?
He played in the Austrian league, like
Evo?
with a few Italian teams. Yeah, he was here for Pustertal.
Okay.
He was part of their setup, and I need to check actually where he went. But I think he played a year in, might have played a year in the Alps as well.
Okay,
Athlete.
nice.
Nice.
Where did he get drafted to, Mark?
Oh, he got drafted to. Let me see if I can. Ducks.
Anaheim.
Anaheim. That's awesome. Wow.
So it's a pretty cool spot to go over and do some training camps and shit for the summer,
I think
right?
he played against Jeep in the World Champs.
Oh,
He was
there you
in
go.
Sweden last year. Sorry, he was in Sweden last year, part of the Red Bull Academy.
Oh, okay. Nice. It's good to see. It's good to see some of these young guys. Obviously, we had an Austrian go fifth to Montreal, your hometown. What was it like seeing the reaction from some of the fans who, in my opinion, are ignorant fucking dickheads? They have no clue what they're talking about. That Swiss league that kid's playing in as a 17-year-old, eating 28 minutes a night, is no joke. He's legit. This kid that's coming to Montreal.
The Swiss league is like one of the strongest leagues in the world, and to play at 17, like that's pretty impressive, to be honest, and log in those minutes. I like personally. Look, I don't know him personally. I don't know like his background and his career so far, but fifth overall pick, and especially how there were a lot of really good players in the top 10 in this year's draft.
Oh yeah.
You knew for sure the Montreal fan base was gonna be but this guy, but it's always like that every year, right? So it's like that in Montreal. That the fans love to get involved. They love to give their 2 cents, and that's what makes it such a city for hockey, because
It's a historic club, right?
everybody's so involved in it. They're so like not even involved, like committed.
Yeah.
Like everyone feels a part of the team's success or the losses, like the whole city feels it. So you kind of feel like no matter who they pick, there's going to be a little bit of some debate. Like, no, but what about, you know what I mean? Like everybody's kind of like a GM at home in Montreal.
Yeah. Like, what do they call it? Like, it's that armchair quarterbacks and shit. Like Sunday, Monday morning coaches. They've got all the ideas. Tell me about.
But that's what makes Montreal like an incredible franchise, because every single person in the city knows the heartbeat of the whole team at all times. It's wild.
Tell me about a guy you're going to play against, and if you were GM, would you have taken the gamble on him at fifth? Michkov, he's going to be in the K next year. You're going to get to play against this guy. I've watched his career since the U18s, maybe since he was 15. So the last 3 seasons, he's fucking money. He's the real deal. There's not been a Russian guy that can score goals like him since like Ovechkin.
We had a guest on, didn't we? We had Josh Kessner when he played for Vladivostok, and he goes Michkov. I think it was his debut, and he's just turned 16. He scored a hat trick.
Yeah, look again, like this guy's been playing in the KHL in the last few seasons. I haven't had much time to just follow the KHL.
Yeah,
trying to focus on my stuff, but from what I heard, this guy is special, like you're saying, and so I'll have the chance to play against him. And when you get drafted in the NHL, everyone has their shot, especially in the top 10. These guys are going to get their shot, and a lot of people are saying he's one of the best prospects. The whole situation with his contract, I think that might change. Who knows, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
That might change in the next year. So I don't know much about him. I saw the highlights too. I haven't been following since he was 15 like you, but
He looks
I saw the
nasty.
highlights. Like, it's pretty impressive. There's a lot of guys. A lot of guys can score nowadays. A
It's
lot of guys.
down to you guys to stop him. Mark, what was you going to say,
Yeah.
bud? Sorry.
Yeah, so going back into the beginning of hockey, I'm not going to ask how you got into hockey. That's stating the obvious, considering the Canadian heritage. But what did you always want to be a goalie, or did you start in other
Well,
positions?
the first, like, I've always kind of liked goalies because, like, their gear, the helmets, stuff like that. But the first few years you play, everybody knows there are no goalies. So I was a little player like everyone. I'm at home playing mini sticks in the basement, just like everyone. And how it got started for me, I've always liked it, and my parents knew, and my buddies knew as well. Like 5, 6 years old, you're 6 years old, you start playing. Um, and one day we had like the final game of the year, and to make a proper game, you needed goalies. So there were volunteers, and one of the volunteers, he didn't even show up. So we were short a guy, and then one of my buddy's dads came up to me and said, "Hey, like, we know you like goalies, and Marty Brodeur, like Josie Theodore, all those guys that when I was younger they were in their prime." And I said, "You wanna strap on the pads?" Yeah, it's like, let's go. So they put pads on top of my like player pads just for this game, and then they just changed my gloves out. I had my player stick, and there you go. I'm in the net, and so I just had a blast. I guess I had a blast because the very next season or year we were playing, I was goalie. So the rest for me was kind of history. There was kind of I went back 1 year, 4 or 5 years after that, I wanted to know the feeling scoring a goal. Scored a couple of goals, and I decided I was much better off being a goalie. So then I went back, and then I can safely say that the rest is history for me, where I was idolizing Marty Brodeur, Josie Theodore, and I tried it out. Someone didn't show up. I went on, and that was that for me.
Um, just recently, or maybe even right now, the Helinka Gretzky Cup is on.
Yep.
You were lucky enough to be a part of that, and not only be a part of it, but win it. What was that like for a young man to get to, arguably outside the World Juniors? It's the biggest junior tournament on the planet. What was it like getting to sink your teeth into that at such a young age?
Honestly, it was pretty dope because for me, that was like the first tournament that I had to really travel to. I never been to Europe before for hockey or anything like that. It was the biggest thing for me at that time. I was playing major junior, yes, but my dad came with me to Czech Republic and Slovakia. It was Bratislava and Piasny, if I remember correctly. And yeah, it was crazy because it was the first time I really had to travel, the whole Hockey Canada experience. The whole team's wearing the same stuff. You get all this package, and it was the first time I felt like, okay, like this is like pro, like this is the pro game. It's not right, but it's like that's how it feels when you're 17, traveling abroad, playing with the best guys in the country, guys you don't even play in the same league. Some guys WHL, some guys OHL. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're playing against guys you've never seen before. Russian players, Swedish players, Finnish players. This is the first time I've lived that. So it's an experience in itself, and that tournament is like, it was awesome. It was awesome. Just being so far away from home, playing against guys you never heard of before, matching kind of your skill against those guys. It was cool. We had an unbelievable team, kind of a not a shadow, but a parallel to the World Junior team that we won the gold with. A lot of the guys kind of moved on to that. So it was cool. It was a sick experience.
You played with a young man by the name of Nathan Mackinnon, who kind of run riot with 11 points in 5 games. Obviously, he came on the scene. We talk about Michkov, knowing him from 15. McKinnon, we knew about this kid when he was younger than 15. He was always going to be the guy, but you get to play with him at that young age. I believe that was probably, that would have been the draft year, right? That would have been his draft year. He went number 1 the next year.
So it was the beginning of our draft year. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. So
in August. In June. Yeah, you're right. Actually.
So he's just fucking pumped up, like ready to go number 1. What was he like, kind of like training and just being around the camp? Was he just a specimen?
It's great. Like we played in the same junior city a couple years, and that as well. There's certain people in life, you guys know, like they're built for something,
Yeah.
and forget about hockey, like someone that's built for construction, someone that's built for this, and this guy's just built to be a machine on the ice, A to Z. He's just built for that. His speed, his grit, his shot is, he's just built for that. And you saw that at 16. We started playing junior. I'm trying to figure it out. My own struggles, and I wasn't an all-star by all means. I had my success at 16 in junior, but I struggled my way through it. For him, it was just like he just hit the ground sprinting. For him, nothing bothered him. It's just like he's the best player on the ice. Doesn't matter the age, anybody in front of him. That's that. And you could tell. It was pretty cool to get the chance to be around a guy like that. It elevated me, it elevated my game, elevated my kind of how I want it to be, because you see a guy like that and I'm alongside him, 16, same age, same club. It's motivated, it's inspiring to see that for me.
You also got to play with some other studs in the Hellenic Club, but I will want to go back to your 2013-14, your senior year with the Mooseheads. You have Jonathan Drouin, who again top 3 draft pick, Nikolai Ehlers, Mackenzie Weegar, Timo Meyer. I mean, you just keep going down the
on and on.
Nico and Timo, they came the next year after that, 14-15. So they never played. They weren't on the same club as Nate and Joe at the same time.
I was going to say, because
Nico were the year afterwards. Yeah, I did play with all those guys. Just they were
just sick guys, eh?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Okay, I tell this story about Nico and Timo because it's true. Like when I got to Halifax a few days earlier for camp, I wanted to do some work with the goalie coach, if I remember well, with Eric before. I was invited a little bit earlier just to do some goalie skates. And I'm on the ice, and then I hear the chatter that all the Euros, we had brand new Euros because Conrad Abelshauser and Marty Ferk, they were too old for junior anymore, so they went pro. And so we had 2 new Euros, Timo Meyer, Nico Ehlers. And these guys had just come off the plane. They had just come off from their like red-eye flight. These guys were jet lagged, they were tired, they didn't have most of the gear. They're coming on the ice dead tired with brand new gear. And I'll be honest with you, they didn't look good at all the first practice I saw them on the ice. And that's the guys that were on the ice for this goalie skate. I was like, okay, like these are the new Euros, like, all right. I mean, it's cool, good new Euros, but I wasn't like convinced, I wasn't convinced of these guys. Okay. And next thing you know, I was dead wrong, because as soon as the season started, these guys turned it on. I mean, obviously there was like a little adaptation period, a month or 2. But then once they were on, it was like, Jesus Christ, these guys were like sick hockey players coming out. And both of them went, I think, 9th or 10th or 11th. I don't know if they were the same. But 2 years back to back, like 9th overall pick, these 2 Euros, these 2 guys. It was, again in Halifax, playing with stars like that. That's I don't know how we can credit Cam or the scouting staff in Halifax, because they just find these guys, and it's just been a tradition in Halifax. You have unbelievable Euros coming in every single time, and they end up playing in the NHL somehow.
Right, boys. One second. Is your video frozen, fellas?
No, I'm good.
Okay, mine's frozen, but I don't know if that's going to affect the recording because I'm the recording person.
Yeah, you kind of went in and out there.
Yeah, so I still don't have any access. What I might do is just hit stop, and then if you boys just we'll just restart it.
All right, have you got a timer?
No, because if I stop it, it won't make a difference. That's what I mean. So I'll just stop it and then go from here. Guys and girls, I'm not sure. It really does depend on the quality, but we might have lost a minute of of visuals there, but hopefully you still heard Zach tell the end of that story. I didn't want to interrupt him while he was mid-flow because my camera had frozen, but we reset and we go again. Obviously,
long story short,
yeah, go.
Timo and Nico, the new Euros in Halifax, when they first came, personally, I didn't think they looked really good, but we can't blame them. They probably hadn't slept in their 10-hour flights, and they had brand new gear. They didn't look really good, but turns out I was real dead wrong. And they turned out to be sick, and they're stars in the NHL. Period. That's the story.
104 points, 49 tucks for Nico that year.
Yeah, unreal.
Obviously we're bumming up some of the offensive boys. You're a goalie. Who are the kind of goalies around the league in your 4 seasons over in the queue that you look forward to competing against, or you was like, I'm gonna have to be on my A game to be better than this guy tonight?
Back in the queue, you mean?
Yeah.
You guys don't. I don't know if you realize I'm getting old. This is almost 10 years ago. I'm trying to remember the guy that I played a lot that I always thought he was underrated, always underrated, and he was still like considered sick, like really good in the league. And I thought he was still underrated. Roman Will. He is a Czech guy. He actually played at Traktor, the team I'm going to play in the KHL as well. He played with Moncton Wildcats, Roman Will. He was just always lights out against us. I don't know if it was against the Mooseheads or anything like that. He had many great seasons, and he never really had a chance to stay in North America for a long time. I just thought he was always a great goalie, and if you look at his numbers, he's always top. That was one of the guys that I thought, Roman Will. And there were other goalies for sure. I played against a lot of guys. Alex Dubois is going to play, I think, in Slovakia. He was always very good. Moncton Wildcats guy, Shawinigan won the Memorial Cup, always good. He was always underrated, kind of a little bit smaller guy, but he turned out to play pro in the AHL and ECHL and all that, did great. So, I mean, there's a lot of goalies, man. I've played against so many guys in my life. It's tough to come up with all of them on the spot, but one that comes to mind right away, Roman Will, for sure.
So then, was there a particular goalie that you actually looked up to during your childhood? Was there someone that you liked to watch in warm-ups and stuff like that and sort of learn your game from?
But when I was younger, like first started, for me, it was Marty Brodeur. Like that was solid. My guy. Like his equipment, the style, the helmet, the Heaton pads. I had the Heaton set, with the white and red. That was my thing. And then Josie Theodore in Montreal, he had those incredible series against the Bruins, and it was just pretty wild at the time. That rivalry with Montreal, Boston, Montreal, Toronto, it was just like. Have you
listened to his episode or watched his Sandbagger with Chicklets Boys? He might be my favorite fucking goalie ever. He is an absolute wild card. Wild card. Like, love, great wild storyteller, just fantastic, like on camera, handsome as really fuck. Good, just too handsome for his own fucking good. Like
the hair,
great hair,
the storytelling. You know what I mean? He's just. And by the way, this guy, it was one of the cool things that, come full circle in my own personal life and experience. When I played my first games with the Capitals, I was wearing number 60, and obviously it played a role in, Jose Theodore played in Washington. He was one of the guys that's inspired me to start playing as a goalie, and he played with the Capitals as well. And then I ended up playing my first game with the Washington Capitals. And after the game, I got, text messages from my friends and all that, and there's this random number and pretty long text saying congratulations, told a story within the text. We were talking about how he's a good story. Signed Josie Theodore, and to me it was like, oh, that's fucking wild,
that's so cool.
For me it was really cool. And later we had a few other interactions, which was great, kind of come full circle. But yeah, he is definitely a good storyteller. Has a few stories from his career, very long career. And that episode, I've seen quite a few clips of that. It's good stuff.
Honestly, just what a guy just to listen to. He comes across so well. He's so likable. You didn't actually we talked about playing in the Helinka Cup. You didn't actually get to play for the U18s at the Worlds that year, but you did get to play at the U20s the following season. Five victories for yourself personally, 2 shutouts. You got to play on a team with Connor McDavid. What was that like when the hype train was right around this kid?
Oh man, another one of these guys that we're talking about that, they're just built for it. That's it. Different kind of animal than Nate, right? Like in terms of their overall stuff, they're different. McDavid, like I can't look, guys, I can't sit here and tell you anything you don't know about it. Like it's almost useless to ask about this guy.
Yeah, it just is what he is.
Like, what am I going to tell you that you don't already know? Like
cheat code.
Yeah, I mean,
he's just
he was one of the driving forces of winning the gold medal. Yeah, we were on an unbelievable team. The whole team, if you look at it, it's actually wild how deep it was, and all the guys, ended up being stars in the NHL pretty much. That's one of the guys. That's one of those guys.
How big was that coming off? Right, obviously, we talked about the young Austrian getting drafted to Montreal. We kind of skipped over the fact that you went 36. You went to Montreal yourself, top goalie in your class. You then go on and have a really, really good World Juniors where your top saves, your top goals against, and you pick up the gold medal. How huge for you was that at that point in your career?
Well, in my life, like it was just like everything was clicking, right? Like everything was clicking, I guess, at that point in my life, 17, 18 years old, all these things happening, drafted by my hometown where I've been going to watch games since I'm a kid, buying 10 game packs with my dad and going to watch games, me and my sister, it was surreal, it was like I was just living on this cloud where nothing could affect what was going on. I just playing hockey, drafted the Montreal Canadiens. It's really difficult to explain, For me, it was just like I had imagined it in my mind playing, mini sticks at home so many times. It was just like kind of natural. Like this is how it's supposed to go, and then my career, went all types of different ways. And I hit all types of walls and adversity and challenges along the way. But at that point in my life and career, man, it was just like everything was clicking. Everything was just happening.
Where was you projected?
The way I had imagined as a kid,
Where was you projected? Were you projected to go as high as you did? Was there talk of other goalies maybe going before you, or were you the talk of like number one goalie? Like
projections, I think I was up there for sure in the top goalies. No doubt. I think at that point,
coming off Mem Cup win as well, right?
Sorry.
You were coming off a Mem Cup victory,
yeah, exactly. It was like
all-star team in the Mem Cup, lights out stats.
Exactly. So like we had an unbelievable season, and we all did. Nate, Joe, the whole Mooseheads organization had unbelievable record-breaking season, and so for me it was the same thing. It was just a lot of wins, a lot of success. Go to the World Juniors, all these things. The World Juniors happened after the draft,
yeah.
Right, but. Memorial Cup, President's Cup, we went all the way. It was just the Ivan Hlinka, Yeah, I think I was right up there. And it was a pretty awesome experience, pretty great.
How did you celebrate getting drafted? Like, was you with a family? Would you go see your boys?
Yeah, our whole family was there. Had a nice had a pretty big crowd. Fucale's, a lot of the family of my family, they're based in New York, and a lot of people from Montreal came over. My billet family from Halifax, they came to the draft in New Jersey. My goalie partner, Chris Clark, at the time, awesome. He was there. We were just good buddies. The whole family was there. And when I did get drafted, you heard a big cheer in the crowd of my family all the way up in the rafters there.
In the nosebleeds, eh?
yeah, that was crazy. It was wild. It was a good time. It was wild.
What an awesome experience. So for a young guy, and we've just seen so many guys go through it now, and the emotions and the highs and the lows.
Yeah, man. Like they call my name. I get up. There's a clip of this somewhere. There's this video of it somewhere. I get up and I don't have any reaction.
just
my dad has the crazy reaction where he's grabbing. My family's like, "Oh my god!" And I'm just like, get up, like stone cold face. I guess. I was just like, I don't know, man. If I blacked out, I don't know what happened. And the emotion hit me when I went down, and then they gave me the jersey, and somebody greeted me in New Jersey and say like "Bienvenue au Canadien Montréal." You're like, welcome, And I put my jersey on and I saw it. Then I was like, holy shit!
Yeah, this is going. This is real.
It's awesome. That was good.
So you come out your draft, you come out of your major junior career. Were you expecting to get a shot at the NHL, or had the organization said, look, we have these plans for you down in the A, we want you to go and cut your teeth and get some experience at pro hockey? What was the kind of conversations leading out of your last year in juniors?
I don't think a team, especially with goalies nowadays, they have they tell you the exact plan where it's like, look, we think this is going to happen, couple years here, couple years there. The plan was for me definitely to go to the minors and kind of sharpen my game up,
Carey Price will have a big fucking say in that matter, eh?
Well, yeah, and
like he's pretty good at hockey.
It's funny because like if you look at Carey Price at that time, like there was Henrik Lundqvist in New York and Pecorino in Nashville and all these starters across the league. Like it's pretty much the same situation. When you first turn pro, there's a guy in the NHL that's like gonna play 50, 60 games, right? Every team has their starter that like you look at Carey Price, but it's no different everywhere else. Like as a 20-year-old turning pro, like that's the competition across the board. Very rarely do you not have a big number one guy. So for me, the whole Carey Price question of did you think you'd never make it to the NHL because of the situation in the system at the time? Well, it was the same everywhere.
Yeah, if you was in New Jersey, they had their guy. If he was in Vancouver, they had their guy.
So it's like, for me, I knew I was going to go to the minors, kind of sharpen my stuff, and then you play to earn your shot. And for me, it took a long time. It took 7 years for me to get to that point. All types of teams, the ECHL, AHL, good times, bad times. Oh man, I went through it all before I actually played a game.
The first year though, you played 42 games in St. John's.
Yep.
I mean that's a solid amount of starts.
Pretty good, I'd say.
Did you feel like comfortable with that amount of games coming in? Were you happy, or did you want more? What was the kind of mentality as a goalie?
It was great. I played a lot that first year. We didn't have a fantastic club. If I remember well, there was like an insane amount of call-ups and injuries and like really, really wild. Like it would be interesting to have an exact number of how many players played on that team that year.
47 plus goalies.
Yeah, so that's a lot of guys. So we struggled a lot, and it was a learning experience. We had a lot of young guys. I think we were like 7 or 8 rookies. So it was good. Like it was like a
good fun. You had good fun off the ice.
Good fun, man. Like a rookie party was a lot of rookies.
Yeah.
But it was good that we were kind of a young team, kind of growing together. And the year I had a lot of starts, and I thought it was going in the right direction. And the very next season, I had to go back to the ECHL. It was kind of a shock for me, and then a lot of the struggles kind of started there. And yeah.
Was it like having John Scott on your roster? Was he still punching guys in the face on the regular?
Who's this? Sorry,
Big Johnny Scott.
Yeah, John Scott. Oh, that was crazy. That season when he came over, and we also had Broll. I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah.
Bowler, and I mean, we had a few tough guys, and then we also had
Brandon McNally, Italian boy. There you go. He was on the roster that year.
Yeah. Also, Andrew Nielsen, which was like known, like super tough, like
Stefan Fournier, former guest of the show,
podcast guest.
Yeah.
Oh, really? He was on here. There you go. He's absolute beauty. So yeah, we had a share of tough guys and fights on that club. It was wild. You had a guy like John Scott who basically had was the most famous guy in hockey pretty much that season. If you remember well, everybody was talking about him. It was on our club. It was fucking wild. It was cool.
What did you boys make of that? Because obviously he got voted onto the All-Star team. I mean, he's a great guy or whatever, but he had no fucking right in being at an All-Star game. and then you got to play with him, and then he's back down the mines. He's like, you're like, yep, that's where he should
Yeah,
be.
it
What's
was
just happened?
honestly, the whole thing was kind of strange. Everybody will say the same thing, right? Like it was kind of strange because like it just came out of nowhere. Everybody knew he wasn't like an all-star player, but then he's at the all-star game, so he's just living it up. And so he's just living it up. And guess what? I bet you he's got half the stories he could tell her about that whole experience.
Yeah.
And then he was on ours, and we got to learn about all his experiences in his career through the dinners, team dinners and the on the road and all that. And you talk to this guy, and he had a long career in the NHL, fought like the toughest guys we all know, and got to play with him. It was awesome. It's just a great guy. And it's one of those teammates that's like, that whole story was like, well, yeah, I played with John Scott. It's freaking sick.
NHL All-Star.
You don't really know what to say. Just looking at every team you've played on, you've played with just like the very best we could ever dream to ever see play. Like, it's just unreal to actually have this conversation, just look through your career, and you've just been with everyone. Like, that must just...
Well, I don't know if that's good or medium or bad. Like, I've played with a lot of guys on different leagues, different places in the world. No, man, I've been lucky. I've been lucky to have a very, I'm going to say, rich experience in pro hockey. Like, I don't have 500 games in the NHL. I like we drew it up, a second round pick, 500 games in the NHL, it wasn't exactly how I drew it up, right? Or thought of it when I was young. But looking back now, I'm waiting for my second baby.
Awesome. Congrats.
Nice.
I'm a father now. I've lived through 8 pro seasons in different leagues and all that.
Now it's time to go to Russia. I've got 2 kids. Let's go to Russia.
I'm heading to the KHL, after all this stuff. Lived through insane amounts, played with all these players, I feel lucky I got to live all this stuff. I learned a lot about myself personally through some pretty dark times, really tough situations, some bad seasons and good seasons, and contract stuff and all the pro hockey life things. Like, I lived through a lot of it. And so I you talk about all the players I played with, like, I've seen a lot of sick players, and so as a goalie, like, that's pretty dope. You see guys become stars in the NHL, and I know these people personally, and that's cool. I feel lucky I got to play with a lot of these guys.
Why do you think you went back down to the coast after your 42 games in your first season? Because realistically, looking at your stats, you're up over the 90. You're up over the 90s. You're winning games on a pretty dusty roster. Well, it is like,
listen, bro,
50 odd guys, like 50 odd guys in roster. Like, what does a goalie have to do in order?
Listen, I don't know, man.
Stay in that club.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell you.
Were you fucked off? Like, were you pissed off? Like, was there like
was
a bit?
Pissed off?
Was there like a bit shocked between your teeth? Yeah,
Nicky, I was shocked. Yeah, shocked. Like, I didn't know. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I got
big pay cut too, right? Big pay cut from the AHL to the fucking coach.
You make the same money when you go to the ECHL as you do in the AHL.
Okay, well, you got a good agent there that makes sure.
No, it's standard. On a 2-way NHL contract, when you go to the East Coast League, you get paid the same as the AHL. But
yeah,
I mean, look, after 42 games at 20, and I'm 21 years old, expecting to move upward,
that way,
like slowly, not necessarily believing you're going to be in the NHL at 21, but like believe that the trend is going upward. Like, okay, rookie season, it was I did good. For a rookie season, 20 years old, I played 42 games. I did good. Okay, maybe all right. Right. And then to go backwards and go down, it was a shock. It was hard to digest. And looking back with experience, guys, like, we talked about the years prior to that, where, 16, I basically played 60 games at 16 in junior. And then at 17, we won it all. We killed we killed everything, gold medal of the world at Ivan Lincoln. And then At 18, I went to the World Juniors as underage, and then we won the World Juniors. So in my life, I hadn't hit much adversity. It was just uphill, uphill, uphill. And then after a so-so season, you know, I get hit with that punch to the face a little bit kind of analogy. I get sent down. It was the first time in my life really that I was hit with something real hard to deal with. And now looking back with experience, it's good it happened to me because I became a much better goalie a couple years down the road. But at that moment, Nick, like I don't know. I don't know what the decision was and why and whatnot. They didn't tell me much either, other than, you know, I'm gonna go down. I even asked. I remember in the office, I asked, like, when am I coming back? Like, is it just a couple games? You know, you want me to try something new? Like, what's the deal? Said, hey, we don't know when you come back. Turns out I was down there all year, and it was really tough, man. I went through some pretty tough mental times.
What was the hardest thing mentally to kind of maybe not accept, but just the hardest thing mentally overall to take in when you're coming off what you think success, and then there's pretty much lack of communication, and then you're down in a league. No disrespect to the boys on the coast, but you don't fucking want to be there.
Well, no, exactly, right? Like, what I mean by that is I wanted to trend upward. And turns out, absolutely, as I was thinking I was trending upward, no, just kidding. Sorry. You know what I mean? Like, so,
it's better than kicking a dick.
I was, the toughest part was that I was winning quite a bit with Brampton. We were winning a lot of games. We had a good offensive club. Offensively, we were really good, but, you know, it wasn't as organized. It wasn't as tight as it's played in the AHL. Like, the AHL is like super tight played league. Like, everybody is on point because everyone's trying to make it up to the NHL. Then you go in the ECHL where the numbers are more likely to get you out of the league, right? And so for me as a goalie, it was hard because it was a lot more open, a lot of running gun, a lot of stuff like that in that specific situation. It was hard that, like, okay, we were winning games, you know, 4-3, 5-4, 6-5, 6-4, you know what I mean? And I'm looking at my own numbers and stuff, and it was hard for me to deal with at that point in my career, where now I don't look at the numbers as much. But then I had a tough time with that. And you know, I'm winning games, I'm getting in my car, and I'm like, well, this isn't getting me any closer. I felt so far. I felt so secluded from the team I had played on the year before. Those guys are getting called up. You know what I mean? I just felt so much further away from my goal. And that was, like, mentally, it was super tough to deal with because at a young age, I didn't have those mental tools yet. I didn't have the experience. And because of those dark times, those tough times, though, like, I built myself up really good. And I think that's why, like, right now in my career where I'm at, I'm in a good spot because of a lot of the shit situations I had to deal with.
Did you have fun though? Because obviously we've been doing this podcast since 2019 now. We've talked to a lot of boys that have come through the coast.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they say they just have a fucking time.
Oh my God. Look, arguably, okay, in my career, fun-wise, you'll have more fun in the East Coast than you'll do in the AHL.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm really confident I'm not the first or the last guy you'll hear that from. Like, arguably, a lot of guys will say that because the pressure's not really on in the ECHL.
Yeah.
You know, like, you don't
very
have
cutthroat
that much pressure. Like, you know, there's a whole league between you and the NHL, you know, like, you don't have much to lose, you know, like, you know, the guys are getting paid what they're getting paid, and they're playing because, you know,
love it.
They're trying to make it upward, or they just really love hockey and they have another job. Like, I played with a lot of the guys in the coast that, you know, had another job, or insurance brokers, or, you know, real estate agents, or, you know what I mean? So playing in the AHL, the pressure's always on. It's always about performance. It's always about the next game, that it could very well be the very next day you could very well be called up. It's happened to me multiple times where I go to Costco and buy for $500 and come home, and the very night I just did that, planning for the next 2 weeks, you get called up, because that's just the nature of the game. In the AHL, it happens like this. You know, a couple fantastic games, you're up. You could be. or you could be there for a long time and you don't know. So everyone's training hard. Everyone is like trying to be dialed in. Everyone's trying to gain an edge on someone else. It's a little bit more cutthroat in the AHL than it is in the East Coast. And that's just the reality where you go to the ECHL. For me, I think I was the only contracted guy there for a majority of the season. When I say contracted guy, the NHL contract. And I was just having a blast. These guys, I was 21. Okay, this is cool. 21 years old, I was playing with David Ling. He was 42 in the East Coast.
Another podcast guest.
There you go. David Ling, one of the biggest beauties I've ever seen in hockey.
Oh, yeah.
I was playing with him on the same club. And he's the last active member at the time. He's the last active member playing from the Quebec Nordiques. For me, that was sick.
Yeah,
that was sick. But you look at the contrast of you having 9 drafted rookies my 20-year-old year, where everyone is trying to make it. And it's like, we got to stay late at the gym and do this and that. And the next game's important. And you have a tough game. It's like, no, we got to bounce back right away. While you're playing in the coast, I knew I was going to play pretty much every game. The pressure was kind of off. It's just a different dynamic. It was, I had a bunch of fun there.
So Linger told some great Russian stories on this because obviously he came Super League time. He was there in the early days and went back in the K. We talked about good teammates and good guys and good storytellers who Jose Theodore. David Ling's up there with some of the best we've had on here for being able to tell a story. What was that like being 21 and in the locker room with the OG just shooting shit? And I imagine just holding court on a regular basis for the boys.
Honestly, he's like OG is such a good word. Like the best. Just hilarious, like good humor, you just seen it all. So for him, it was like, another 10-hour bus ride. Fuck it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I've seen this before. A lot of the times his 10-year-old son was with us.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, he was on the road. We're on the sleeper bus and he's not in the back. He's sitting with the head coach in the booth in the front, shooting the shit, telling stories, whatever. It's rare you're going to find a beauty like David Ling that's seen literally every single league, every player, everyone, every situation. And he scored goals in every league, he was a good player.
Oh, yeah.
And when we were in Brampton, like he was one of our guys where, he could be our power play guy. He could have, so it was wild.
What a beauty, Mark. That was fun.
Did you know that was the first interview I ever hooked up for 4,000 and counting?
It was, yeah, it was way back when. Because obviously he had the UK connection. He stopped over here for a little.
Nottingham. Awesome in Nottingham.
He was lights out when he came over here. Let's fast forward a little bit. You got to go 2017, 2018, split your time between Brampton, 11 games there, but you got called up, 18 games with Laval. What was it like getting to be part of the Laval organization? Obviously, you're pretty local there. That's quite close to home.
I'm born in Laval, so for me, it was great. I spent most of the season, actually 95% of the season with the Laval Rocket. I just went down a few weekends to play in Brampton, which was funny because we were running with 3 goalies at the time. There was a rookie, Mcdavid. Lindgren was a second year guy, and I was third year. So we were fairly young goalies. And with a few of my buddies on the team, not everyone, but with a few of my closer friends on the team, it was a running joke we had that I had like the craziest situation. I had a three-way contract. We kind of made that up, and I had the NHL travel because they would fly me everywhere to games. And I had to go back to Brampton a lot, and then they would fly me and stuff. I had the AHL practice because most of the times they would call me up to practice with Laval, and then I would just play East Coast games. So I was just like NHL travel, AHL practice, and East Coast games because I was being up and down. I don't know how many times I went up and down that season. It was almost every weekend, up and down, up and down.
Were you ever were you black acing with almost like black acing with the Canadians at any point, or?
No, I never black aced with the Canadians. I don't know if
Was
I
there
don't
any?
know. I don't.
Was there a
I don't think they
situation
were
where
in
you
the
got called,
playoffs.
up and didn't get? Obviously, you talked about it took 7 years to get your game, but was there ever times where you got called up and then just didn't get the nod to get in between
Listen,
the
it
bunch?
happened a few times. It happened a
Oh,
few times.
how sickening was that?
It's pretty sickening. I'll tell you. Looking back, it sucks to look back at those times that you could have had those opportunities. So I listen. I remember the last game I backed up with the Canadiens organization. It was a game in New Jersey, of all places, where we got drafted that year, and it was 4-0 after one. And I thought for sure the trainers brought my gear. They were like ready to have me go on, and I didn't go. And it was 6-2 after two, and I still didn't go. And that was I think in I don't know, December or January. And that's when I knew like I was not going to come back in this organization, because at this point, uh, an opportunity like that, you go back down. Okay, the game's over, all that, but like that was a missed opportunity to play, and
That was a
show
gimme
what
from
you
the
got.
organization, right? That was a gimme for them guys.
I mean, I guess we could say it was a gimme, but
But
at the time,
like in order to like give your young 21-year-old fucking prospect a shot, that's a fucking slam dunk. You full zip up. Probably not. You're probably not going to
full
concede
zip up, I
five
like that.
straight.
What are you gonna do? I don't make the calls. I don't make the
No,
calls, man.
and that's why it's so
I'm just a
cutthroat. This
goalie. I
business,
make the
right?
joke around my buddies. I'm just a goalie, man. I don't know. I
It's a
don't
good
know.
attitude to have because you can only really control the controllables. And I mean, you're there, you're ready.
Yeah,
You're
I
there and
can't tell you
ready.
at the time it didn't sting. It's like, okay, you're still not putting me, so that means it's either me or
Yeah, right.
is it me? You ask yourself, is it me, guys, or what?
Are you
Anyway,
talking to your agent at this point and saying, "Look, I need to get the fuck out of Dodge here because
I mean,
I'm
was
not
still
going
at the
anywhere."
time, guys. At the time, I'm still a restricted free agent, so you don't really know what's going to happen, and there's still hockey left in the season. So,
Was that the third year of your entry level?
yeah.
Yeah. So you're restricted. It's going into free agency at that point. But what was the thinking going into free agency?
So
Test the market.
particularly in my situation early in the season, my agent was told like, hey, like it's not looking like we're gonna keep Zach at all. So I was like, okay, well that kind of sucks. Being
Okay, cheers.
yeah, so okay, and so so it turns out they didn't qualify me. You get a call, they say, hey, look, like we didn't qualify you. Best of luck in future. Bye. That's what it is. And so I'm a free agent now, and I get a call, and I signed with the Vegas Golden Knights organization. It's their second year of existence, and it was great. I had really good positive talks with Dave Pryor, a legendary goalie coach in hockey, and it was really I was really optimistic at the time. They went to the Cup final at their first year. It was just great organization and different vibe. I go to camp, the vibe's completely different. It's the second year of the organization. Everyone is like super happy to be there. It was just insane, Vegas training camp. It was sick. And so for me, I get there. I didn't have a really great year. Personally, I was going through some challenges where I'm trying to implement completely new things in my game from the new goalie coaching staff and everything. And it's obviously not their mistake. It's my mistake that I'm trying to implement these brand new things to a T where it's not really clicking with me, right?
Maybe just
As
too
goalie,
much, like too much like
clicked out of
information.
it and said, okay, this isn't working for me. I got to go back to what gives me success. But I was stubborn in a sense where I always was looking for something new, always something new, and try and make my game better and better and better while, I got drafted a certain way. I made it to a certain level doing a certain thing. And all of a sudden I threw that out the window because I'm trying to listen to these new concepts and just, so that's my mistake, especially in the heat of the moment in the game. You have to always fall back to your fundamentals, your basics that give you success. And so I wasn't doing that. So I had a really tough year until I went to the Spengler Cup, and I said, well, look, I spent the last 2.5 years in the coast, not having a real great year. I'm again in the coast. kind of discouraged, like, where the hell am I? I'm not going to make it in the NHL, you know? And so you get a call from Team Canada, Spengler Cup in Davos. And it's like, okay, Team Canada, this
Sick, by the way.
huge. Like, it's insane. So the Spengler Cup, like, this was my first experience at it. And actually, it's the second experience I had at 21. And it was really sick experience. And then when I got the call again, I was like, yes, like, I really need this. I needed to get out of that kind of zone of the East Coast and everything. And I had another great tournament. And one of the reasons for that was I just threw everything I was doing out the door. And I just focused on not thinking of anything technical in my game. And I just played the way I'm used to be playing since I'm a kid.
Just stop pucks.
Yes, but just the basic concepts that I believed in.
Yeah.
Just the basic concepts that I really, really, really believed in inside. Like, I know this will help me. So guess what? I had another great tournament. We lost in the shootout in the finals. But I had a really great tournament. And then after that, it kind of revived me. I had a really great end of the season, really good playoffs with Fort Wayne on those basic concepts that I believed in. So then it started really changing for me, where a couple dark years, really okay to bad seasons, and the Spengler Cup made me realize, like, there's these basic concepts I've been doing for 10 years already at this point in my life. I just have to stick to that. And whatever goalie coach or anybody that tries to change my little system that I believe in, that I know I'm good at, I'm going to eliminate that. I'm not going to do it I was going to be more selective at bringing stuff in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it turns out, man, like, the very next season, I didn't get offered an NHL contract. I was on an AHL contract with Syracuse. It was another tough thing. I wanted to go to Europe. I was discouraged. I was like, fuck, I don't want to go back to the coast. I don't want to do this again. You know, I was tired of the carousel. I was tired of it. You know, I never really got a good opportunity, but at the same time, I never really earned a great opportunity either. So I said, fuck it. I'm going to Orlando and the East Coast, and I had the best year of my career.
I was going to say, not a bad spot to go hang out in the coast.
You know, I had so much fun that year. And we talked about having fun on the East Coast versus the AHL. I had no pressure on me. Nobody expected me to be Mr. Gold medal, Memorial Cup, whatever, because years had passed and I'm on this AHL contract, and I just had a ball of a time, and I just played my game. I had no goalie coach in Orlando. Nobody was bothering me.
Oh, wow.
I was just playing my game. And I had a great year, like really, really, really great year. And I went back to the Spengler Cup, and we won it again, doing these things that I'm talking about there, just the basic concepts that I believed in. And then I knew, I was like, okay, well, whatever happens on my career, this is how I'm going to play. This is how I'm going to have success. Next thing you know, man, there's no offers. Nobody wants to sign me anywhere after a really good season. And I had signed a KHL contract in Riga, Latvia. That fell through after.
That's a shame, by the way, because
we would have seen you there.
I've been to a KHL game in Riga. What a fucking spot for ice hockey.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. But true story. Like, I'm happy I didn't go there, because that year ended up they ended up having like 9 goalies play for them that year, and they won maybe, I think, 7 or 8 games. So definitely not a great situation to go down there. Okay, so I'm happy I didn't go to that, or it didn't materialize, because something else was coming. At this point, it was at this point I had canceled my AHL contract, went to Munich for a bit. I was ready to go to Europe. I had signed this KHL thing. It fell through. So I was ready to go to Europe, after a good year in Orlando. And out of the blue, man, with the whole COVID layoff and everything, out of the blue, the Washington Capitals called my agent. And it was the most unexpected random thing I've seen, because we had gone through every team in the league and nobody wanted to make an offer. Nobody wanted me. And all of a sudden, Washington Capitals called. I said, look, I told my agent flat out, I said, look, if they're going to send me to the coast, tell them no, I'm going to play in Europe. Like, I'm not going back to the coast. Just tell them. I don't care. At this point in my life, guys, like five or so years of my career, I was just tired of it. I was mentally drained. It was tough. I had a tough time for a few years. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I said, if they're going to send me as fifth, if I'm going to be fifth on the depth chart,
yeah.
Tell them no. I'm going to Europe. I'm going to have way more fun there. After my 3 experiences at the Spengler, I said I'm going to have way more fun. I'm going to play hockey because I love to play. I do, man. And so I said, fuck it. I'm going to Europe. And so Washington Capitals called me, and I'm like, what is this? Another AHL minimum, contract? No, Zach, I think they want to sign an NHL contract. I was like, okay, I'm laughing.
Yeah,
whatever. We'll talk to them, but whatever, right? Man, it was true. Turned out a couple days later, I'm under contract with the Washington Capitals on an NHL 2-way contract. And I was like, complete 180 of what, And so in my mind, I was like, okay, let's get ready for that. They asked me if I wanted to go play a kind of trial run game in South Carolina. I said yes, because I wasn't scared of anything anymore. I had nothing to lose anymore. I was just like, they want me to go play a game in the East Coast after 9 months off of the COVID layoff. Like, yeah, I'll take that extra game before camp to get. Turns out a real good camp, real good game.
972 save percentage in that game, not bad.
Well, it was one game, so it was good one game. And so I go to Hershey because I knew they told me, like, you're going to be number 4. You're going to be back up in Hershey, and we'll see from there. And I had like an insane start. Like I had like sick first 5 games or so. Really good. And all on these concepts that I believed in. I didn't let anybody influence my shit, because I was like, I've been through all this garbage in my career. I'm going to do this, and that's that. I know I can be good when I play like this. 5 games after, I signed a 2-year extension with the Washington Capitals.
Awesome.
And so yeah, that's how it played out for me. I had this situation where I had nothing to basically 3 years with the same organization. After that shortened season, I was like all the way at camp. I was the last guy sent back. Couple games, and I played my first NHL game in my 7th pro year. It was fucking crazy.
So you get to then pull the sweater on in the 21-22 season 4 times. Talk us through the first time that you're going to get the start, where they're going, right, you're the guy today. Like, this is for all the marbles. You're gonna get in there and make your debut.
It was a big weight off my shoulders. I told you guys a lot of what happened to me, what I lived in my career, and it would just weighed a lot. That's why I wanted to go to Europe. Like I wanted to play hockey because I loved it. Right. Yeah. And when I came to the Capitals, there was that fresh start. The goalie coach Scott Murray and Westy, they were just so fucking great with me. And it's like they knew exactly what I needed. And also I knew what I needed at this point. It was like I was done with just over.
You're smarter and a bit more of a veteran, right?
Yes, exactly. So I was ready at this point in my career. This is when I was ready to do my thing. And after some good games, I was still on a good streak. They called me up, and then I didn't expect to play right away because it was a 2-game road trip. I might have played against, Columbus the second game, because I think at the time, I don't know if they were a weaker team. I don't remember. And so, but they said, no, you're going to play tomorrow in Detroit. Well, then it was like, all right, I was excited.
Okay, let's go.
One thing I must say though is I wasn't as nervous as I thought I would be. If you told me, like, when I was younger, how nervous would you be? I wasn't as nervous as that. I just felt like it was time for me. Like I had been through a lot. I said, okay, well, I know my game. I'm not going to change anything. I played like this in the East Coast. I played like this in the AHL. I could do it. Well, I'm going to play like this in the NHL, and then we'll see what happens. Like I told you, at this point, I didn't have much to lose. And so I played my game, and turns out I got a shutout in my first game in the NHL.
Oh, yeah?
Was that with your crazy diving save? Was that the game with your crazy diving save?
No, that was in Minnesota a couple months after.
Hartman, yeah.
Yeah.
What was the
That's how it played out for me, man. I really wasn't as nervous as I thought I would be. Just because at this point at this like period, this streak I was on that time as a goalie, I was just really trusting my stuff. I was really trusting it, and that's all I did in my game, and it turned out great.
So you played with McKinnon, you played with McDavid. Where does my favorite NHL player, Mr. fucking goal scoring record breaking Alexander Ovechkin, where does he fit in? That guy's going to break Gretzky's goal record. He's a savage.
No doubt.
What was that? What was that like as a goalie in practice? Was he just breaking your collarbone on a regular basis for like one tease from the cheap seats?
You don't ever face it like you do in the game, you know.
But I mean, that's lucky for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. It's just so it's a combination of many things. His wheelhouse is bigger than other players. No matter where you put the puck, he'll be able to get it on net. And that's kind of the thing, is that we talk about that kind of sweet spot wheelhouse for guys in their one-timers. Like his doesn't really matter how you deliver it. He'll find a way to put it on net. And that's kind of tricky, because whether it's a bottling puck, it's on net. And so those create some wacky kind of trajectories. And so for him, it's just volume and volume and volume. So it's pretty wild to watch. It felt in the last 2-3 years, this is how it felt. Every couple of weekends he was breaking something new, whether he was catching someone. It's wild. You're gonna hear this from other players that have been on the Capitals. It's wild to be a part of that. And I was lucky enough to be around that environment where I got to see these record-breaking nights. And player like that, man, good person, good guy. He's captain for a reason of the Capitals. And my experience with him was just great. And I feel lucky I got to be part of that organization, play with guys like that.
There's another favorite of mine right there, Tom Wilson.
Oh, Tom Wilson. I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, well, he's a throwback. The guy can score 55 points. You punch your fucking face in, he'll run you over, he'll back check, he'll forecheck, his dick can front the net. Just what a guy. Do you see more NHL organizations now looking for a guy like him, like a Tkachuk, both Tkachuks, like that glue guy, spit no lube, sandpaper finish?
Like if I was building a team, I'd want a guy for sure, like Wilson.
Yeah,
and I think everybody that's building a team would want a guy like that. It's this guy you need and want on your team, and you just don't want to play against him.
Yeah.
You just want him on your side. You never want to play against this guy, That's the type of player he is, and leader and teammate. And I again, like this is one of the guys I just had such a good time playing with, because he's on your team. He's on your team. And
you boys play a bit of, I don't know what you call it over there, but we call it juice boy over here, a bit of penalty shots at the end of practice. You guys do any of that? And if so, how was it facing TJ Oshie, the man that was infamous for scoring just goal after goal after goal in the shootout? I believe it was at the Olympics or the Worlds.
He probably made a fool of me a few times, guys.
Yeah.
He probably made a fool out of me a few times, no doubt. He's a great guy too. So we had some fun with it. But yeah, I don't like my odds. I don't like many goalies. Were very good in practice against him at all.
What about one more player that I want to bring up? Because I mean, without him, don't get me wrong, Ovechkin would be pretty close to the goal record, but without Backstrom, I don't think he'd be quite as far along the way as he is. What's that guy like? Watching him up close on a regular basis.
He's a quiet leader. And he has a presence in the locker room. Full disclosure, like in my time being up with the Capitals, it didn't cross paths much with Backy, because he was coming back from an injury.
Yeah.
And I think it happened kind of like 2 years in a row where he was really, well, it was kind of stuck in between 2 years where he's really trying to get back. And well, I did see him a lot, but in terms of ice time, not as much. But he has that presence, that veteran presence that you just can't ignore. It's really tough to explain and kind of explain with words, because his action throughout his career, it just became so undeniable, with that duo, that he's around the locker room. He'll say, well, okay, well, with this guy in the lineup, we're not only better, but we're just a whole different team. You know what I mean? And I can't speak to that because I never really played with him in a game in a long time. And, when you play 4 or 5 games, you can't really explain. I can't tell you the whole team dynamic. I had a cup of coffee, a couple cups of coffee. But I know that a guy like that, it doesn't just it's not just a presence. It changes your club because of the history, because of the experience, That's another legend right there.
Just just a legend. I mean that was the year that John Carlson finished third in points on your roster, 71 points from the back. Absolutely crazy. You talked about it being a cup of coffee. Now, how does that work when you're the guy getting called up? Obviously, you're known within the organization. They know that you're down in the A, and then you get the call up. How you accepted into the group, and if you're on the road, guys inviting you out for team, with the team for dinners, or maybe knocking on your room in the hotel, saying we're gonna go fucking shoot some cards or whatever. How does it work for a guy getting called up?
I guess it depends on the person. For me, I'm a little bit louder, on the ice as a goalie. I like to, do the shootouts after practice and kind of challenge and have some fun and, throw some stuff around, you know what I mean? And so for me, it was never really hard to get called up because I'm just myself all the time. When I was younger, I had a tougher time with that, kind of fitting in and everything. But now, after a few years, you're like, look, I'm here. I deserve to be here because the organization. It's not a charity thing. The organization would never bring you up if they didn't believe that you could have success here. And I might have learned that a little later in my career. But if you're ever in the NHL, you're there to perform, and you're there because you earned your spot. Not many players are just there. Just there. You know what I mean? So at this point in my career, I said, well, look, I'm gonna do anything I can, whether it's on the ice, off the ice, to contribute whatever way. And so I was just myself, and I think that's worked for me. It's worked. I had good relationships with the players, and you get called up, you stick to yourself, you do your thing, and then there's a team dinner, you go, you just be yourself, and usually it works out. That's how I would do it. That's how I did it.
Who was your first phone call to after the game, getting a shutout in your NHL debut? Who'd you call first?
Luckily, I didn't have well, I called my wife for sure.
Yeah,
because she was pregnant.
And you're like, bye, off to Detroit. See you later.
Very pregnant at this point, so she couldn't really travel short notice. It would have been really draining. So she stayed home. But I didn't have to do many phone calls off the bat because my family, my mom and dad, they made it to the game.
Oh, awesome.
My parents made it to Detroit in time. So it was great. And like I told you, that game for me was a big weight off my shoulders after all these years of, up and down, about different team, good time, bad time, all these things. It was a big weight on my shoulders that I accomplished my initial goal to play in the NHL, and I did it. And I not only played, but I got a shot. I had success. I showed that I could have been there, and so that I deserved to be there. And so it was a good time. It was a good time.
Who did your other starts come against?
I played against Minnesota, and I played against Boston, which didn't end great. They were a freaking powerhouse, and not many guys had a good night that night. But
by the way, he's a fucking Boston fan.
They had a good night. Our team didn't have a good night, and I had
you see his smile then when you said it didn't go well. He fucking smiled because he's a Bruins fan. He's just like, yeah, fuck you guys.
That's messed up, man.
You don't care about you're like proper Bruins.
No, I do. That's an awesome story. I don't care regardless of result.
Why didn't it go well? Were they just such a wagon?
They scored a few more goals that I would have liked.
Yeah, that sucks.
Let's just put it like that. They pulled me in the second, and they kept scoring, just to tell you. So it wasn't a great night for our club then.
how hard is that for you getting pulled in an NHL game? Was it something you took personally, or was it, like
Well,
you felt like you're getting pulled out the fire?
at that point, like in that moment, it's hard, like you never want that happening. That's one thing as a goalie, no matter the level, no matter whatever, like you want to be in the net, you want to be contributing. So looking back, though, I do know that was a ball being thrown to me, like, hey, look, like this was a real opportunity, back-to-back starts like that. It was a big opportunity that it didn't work out the way I wanted, and it was just another learning experience for me. Another one of those things that didn't go well, and you could add that to the list in my career where it didn't go the way I planned it, and that's that. So I had to move on. It wasn't great, kind of embarrassing in the moment. You get pulled. You're at home, all that. But you have to move on, and that's pro sports, pro hockey. It's life. You gotta freaking get up and do it. And it was hard for sure, though.
You went on to special things though with the Hershey Bears. Let's be honest, we must be that now after having the great shout up to go into the NHL. You then go on to the Hershey Bears, and you go just the back of this season. You go and win the Calder Cup. I mean, that's got to be up there.
100%, 100%. And now we talk about the Calder Cup. It happened just a few weeks ago. What a special team. What a special season this was for me personally, for the whole team. It was just insane. That was one of the coolest experiences I've had in my whole life. Yes, hockey, yes, career, all that. The season was great. Every single guy in that team, we were such a deep club too. There's guys that were not playing, that were scratched, that were like, yes, making a lot of money, but they were just great freaking players that could play in the NHL, and they're not playing.
Yeah.
So that's how we were with the Hershey Bears this season. We were super deep, but we were a real tight group, unbelievably tight group, and we went all the way. Game 7 overtime, man. It's fucking.
Is that what it was? Really?
I was following this. Yeah.
So, for those that don't know, UK fans, I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of UK fans are very knowledgeable. Some will be new. They found the game through this podcast, or they've found the podcast through just like getting into the game recently.
Yeah.
Talk us through what it takes to become an AHL Calder Cup champion. Obviously, you have the regular season, which is a fucking grind. And then it gets into best of 7, right up the way until right into June. If you're winning,
June 21st, which is insane, by the way. But that's another topic. We got to talk to the league again.
So, what's that like for yourself? Obviously, the season starts way back. Training camps September.
Sorry, my boy. He just made himself in the room. He came in. He's saying, "Dad, it's time to play."
I love that.
I understood every bit of your question, by the way. An AHL season, it's a grind. You use that word, but there's a lot of travel. There's a lot of crazy things happening in an AHL season because you're at the mercy of the NHL club too. You don't know what's going to happen in the NHL. There might be 7 injuries. You lose your 7 top players, and it can happen like this, right? And that can really affect you in the long run, because if, for example, your team is terrible for a month, you might fall in the standings, and then your playoffs change completely. Yeah. But we were so deep. I talked about this. We were so deep. No matter what happened in Washington, we had a sick club on the ice all year. Like we were 1
so strong,
2
deep
with Providence all year in our division. And that's fairly rare, because you see a lot of teams kind of like go up and down in the AHL, and then you have your own injuries too. So you have injuries in the AHL, you have injuries in the NHL that can affect your club. And so for us, thankfully, we came into the playoffs pretty much fully healthy. And we didn't lose anybody to the Capitals, because that's in the AHL, that's a bounce when, like, let's say the NHL club is not in the playoffs. Our team wasn't in the playoffs, so we didn't lose any guys to black acing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's gotta be hard. Your PP's
like, for the
just
organization not great, but for us it's a good bounce because we have our club intact. And so if you look at Hartford, for example, we faced them in the playoffs. They didn't have their top goalie, and they didn't have, I think, one or two of their top players because they were in the NHL for a while. So they hadn't played in 3-4 weeks, and so that kind of affects them. Anyway, to come back to us, like we were healthy, we were a tight-knit group, and we were super deep. It was just a perfect recipe. The stars aligned. We were just full throttle. We had a tough series against Rochester, but you go through all the travel, you go through all the up down of a season, and also with the play-in tournament, we didn't have to do the play-in since we finished. I think it was first or second in our division. We were off for 12 days before even a playoff game.
Was that good or bad? Good or bad?
It was pretty bad because you have other teams playing that you're going to face, and you've been off for 12 days. It's not.
But if you're dinged up, if you got a shoulder injury or a sore hip or something,
that wasn't our case.
No. So it's the negative effect.
It was just the stars aligned. We faced some real good teams. Like Hartford was like arguably one of the hottest teams in the league. They took out Providence. They took out the top team. Then we played Rochester, which was like they were more skilled than us for sure. Their young guys are pretty impressive. And then we went through them in 6, and it was a real tough series. Like Subban and they had some real good veterans too. So, man, that was just a hell of a playoff run from A to Z. Tight-knit group, went to Coachella. We lost 2, came back at home, won 3, couple overtime games. And then we go back to Coachella Valley and finish it Game 7 overtime.
That was our first season as well, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, you just can't make it up like that. It's just wild.
What was it like the minute that, the second that GWG goes in, that game winner, and everything that you fucking worked for in that second, it just comes out.
I'll tell you, from that moment on, it just felt like for the next week, everything was fast forward. Everything was fast forward for the next week. Like you're celebrating on the ice, the handshake, the family comes on, the cup, everyone's passing the cup. You come back in the locker room, the celebrations in there. It's just everything was fast forward. Nothing stopped, and then you get on the bus, it's the party at the hotel, and then the whole hotel all night. And then you get up, you got to pack, all our families were there. My son, my wife, everybody's there. Every player had their family there. So we got to just pack
Amazing.
up. We haven't really slept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get on the plane, we come home. As soon as I come home, there's fans waiting. So it's like, it's just a constant fast forward for like a week. It didn't stop. It was really wild. So you're asking what I thought in that moment when it went in, it was just a week-long celebration. Not stop. It started in that moment.
Yeah.
It's insane.
What's Hershey like as a spot to play in? And obviously, now that you've won there, it's probably going to be one of your favorite places on the fucking planet, I would imagine. But for those that have never heard of it, what's Hershey like as a spot to live, to play?
Hershey is known for Hershey chocolate.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's where the factory is. That's the big thing in town, Hershey Park.
That dude owns everything, right?
Yeah, Milton Hershey built the whole city, A to Z, and everything is designed for Hershey's. That's it. And so there's the schools and everything. And also the other big thing is the med center, Penn State Health is like, it's a huge hospital. And so there's these two things. And it's not a very big town or city. Population is not huge. It's not a big like metropolis. Like it's just a nice country road with a chocolate factory. You know what I mean? And so on the other thing is that it's almost full every night in Hershey, the Giant Center. The Hershey Bears is a huge part of that community. It's huge. And it was the 12th Calder Cup. And that's, I think, Jesus, I hope I'm not wrong here, but
yeah, it's a record.
I think it's the most.
It's the record, yeah.
So for them, it's a standard in hockey in Chocolate Town. That's what it is. So it's not a huge town, but it's hockey with the Hershey Bears, and it's the Hershey Park, and it's Hershey. I love that place. I really do. And I'm grateful I got to play there because it was some of the best moments of my life, for
for sure.
Right.
Never
So
risked their life.
Hershey are notorious for the Air the Bear night. We see it in the UK all over. I think up until maybe this year, they were 9-0 at home on Air the Bear night. You boys got fucking shut out this year.
Yes.
How was that
And
going back
was
into
tough.
the locker
That was
room?
one of the tough nights we had. The 1-0 loss.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that
Because
was
they're like
tough.
13 and a half, 14, 15,000 bears getting chucked on the ice.
Yeah, at the end when you lose.
At the end or at painful?
It was in the end. That was a tough night. Tough night this year. We had some fun records before, but that was a tougher night. We laughed about that one.
Yeah, you can laugh now, but I bet at the time you're like, wow.
Oh no, yeah, it
sucks.
was a tough one. No doubt.
Let's fast forward. We kept you for a really long time here, but we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the KHL. You finally taken the full step to head over to Europe, and maybe many would question why go to the KHL during a war year, but we're not going to get into the war. We're going to get into the hockey. We're going to get into the hockey because we're hockey guys and we're a hockey pod. Why the KHL? Why not back to Munich? Or why not the DL or Swiss? Or because obviously your numbers speak for themselves, your success speaks for yourself. Why the KHL now?
Well, when you go play in Europe, you face a multitude of choices because there's a lot of different leagues that are real competitive and you want to put yourself in the best situation, for your career and long term, right? I'm 28 years old. I got a lot of hockey left, and so for me, being offered by a couple of KHL clubs it's great because you go to Europe in what's kind of known or regarded as the top league, right?
Yeah, it is.
As the top league in Europe, and not to say that they're light years with others. Like there's some like the Swiss league, Sweden, Finland, like.
Oh yeah, there's some good.
These are like great players come out of every year go play in the NHL. So in comparison, it's not like there's a huge gap, but the KHL is known to be the best league, and so to get an opportunity to play in the top league once you go to Europe, well, it's good. It's a good setup, I think, for the future, and hopefully that opens some positive doors in the next few years as well. So. I had some offers. I took everything in consideration. And so I decided to go this way, and it's exciting for a new adventure. And Traktor has a real good fan base. So for me, it's an exciting year ahead.
So you got the contract with Chelyabinsk. Did you get any other KHL offers? You mentioned you had other offers. Were any in the KHL?
Yes, there's a couple. Yeah.
Nice.
Obviously, you're going to go to Traktor this year. The KHL, there's some big teams. You got Moscow, you got St. Petersburg. You're gonna be getting to face some different opportunities this year. Is the long-term dream though, at still only 28 years old, to come over, play in the KHL, and then maybe make your way back to the NHL and perhaps get yourself cemented in a full-time career as an NHLer? Because at 28, there's no reason why that can't still happen.
I agree. I think that's always possible. You see guys coming out of the KHL playing in the NHL for a long time. And it happens regularly now. The young Askarov is now in the AHL. He's poised to be up there as well. Yeah, Sorokin, Shesterkin, Georgiev, all these guys have played in the KHL. You got even Francouz, Pavel Francouz, played in the KHL, and now all of a sudden he actually also played with Traktor. So the door's always open there. And it's a matter of opportunity. It's a matter of performance, and it's a matter of all types of factors, but it's possible. And I think that was part of the decision as well, to play in the KHL and face that kind of competition and be in a top competitive league. You never know what kind of doors that will open.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it possible to come back? 100%. It's possible to come back and sign back here. Only time will tell. I guess in a couple of years, when you invite me back on the podcast, we'll have more. Well, this story is not over, but we'll see.
I hope not.
Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know.
One final question before we get to the cheesy ones. Obviously, you're going to be playing with a bunch of Russian dudes, but there's one guy, one North American, Robert Hamilton. He was there last year. He's back again this year. how much are you boys going to be leaning on each other, being like the dual Canadian duo out there, speak the same language? Ultimately, there's going to be a language barrier that you're going to have to get used to, and whether it be training, games, video. How important is it going to be for you to be able to lean on him, who's got that experience already?
Just today, just this afternoon, and everything like that. Like we're always texting back and forth and making sure that we get acquainted, and we know, we were just talking about this, that we're going to be relying on each other a lot, for all types of reasons, and that's good, because being by yourself sometimes it sucks. So I'm glad to have a fellow Canadian out there, and it seems, especially that he had the experience last year, it's great for me too, that I'm going to have some insight as to what to expect. So we're in constant communication. It's great. And I'm happy to have a guy like that. And we'll see how it plays out. I'm excited for the next season.
Right, cheesy questions, Mark. This is going to be interesting because he's played with some of the biggest savages on the planet. Best player you've ever played with or against?
Like we laughed about. You laughed at me a little earlier. I played with a lot of guys.
Yeah, I know, right? Pick one. Pick one guy.
We can go with Alex Ovechkin.
Yeah.
Best scorer of all time. Best scorer of all time.
No explanation needed, eh?
Yeah, no. I mean, where else can I go? Like Nate Mackinnon. I played junior with him. I never played in pro with him.
Savage.
The best players ever. Also, in that conversation, it's like, he's still young. Imagine, you're still young, 28 years old. Connor McDavid, like, probably be one of the best players ever. So it's like,
it's a tough
I've been
question.
lucky in that sense. I really have been lucky.
Okay, we touched on Linger. Biggest beauties you've ever played with. Obviously, he's going to be in the mix because he's Linger.
David Ling, no doubt. Man, like how can you? From my experience, I can't top David Ling as being the biggest beauty. I can't. Let me think here. Last couple of years.
What about when you get called up to? What about when you get called up to the big? What about when you get called up to the big club and you get your chance for Washington? Who's the fucking joker in the locker, and who's the guy that's keeping it loose and shooting shit in between the periods?
There's a lot, because in Washington, the core group's been there for a long time. So you have Wilson, that's just is the glue of the whole club. You have Oshie is leader. Goes to war every night. It's like this guys that. Carlson is just speaks for itself. He's a leader. He's been there for a long time. That whole core, when you go there, there's not one that one ups the other. It's just the core of the team, and that the reason why they had success in the last years is because that's a tight knit group there, and that core doesn't change.
Okay, we also like to always know who the toughest guy you played with. We know you played with Johnny Scott, but you played some other years in the A. Who's the toughest hombre that you've come across in the AHL?
If I don't talk about my captain the last 2 years, I'd be real stupid. Dylan McElrath is by far
he's my favorite, one of my favorites
beings of all time. One of the greatest players I've ever been with. Like, just great human being all around, because we won the cup together. He's been our captain. It's just such a natural fit there for him. It's just the way it is. He's going back for 2 more years. I've seen guys completely shut down once he challenges them. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand, where Mac will be like, "Okay, are you sure you want some of this?"
Nope.
And you see guys shut down completely, and I've seen that. And I've played with John Scott. I've played with Eric Nielsen. I've played with Broll, the Brolldozer.
Yeah. If your name's the Brolldozer, I mean, you're gonna be pretty tough.
No, but Dylan McElrath, I wouldn't bet against him ever.
What a good shout!
Boy.
What a good shout! Best coach you've ever played for, or the coach that had the most impact on you?
Well, I'm biased right now, because 3 weeks ago we won the cup with a coach that came in his first year with us, Todd Nelson. The whole experience from the moment we started camp, we had a team party, like a pig roast.
Oh, nice.
All day, all families, wives, girlfriends, coaching staff, and their families. Everybody was there. It was a big pig roast. It was like the starting thing of the year. And from that moment on, and what he was telling us all year, and the way he ran the whole season, there was nobody that could recreate that other than Nelly.
He just nailed it.
Oh my God, yeah. And so I think that's his plan every time, and that's what he does. And he's a 4-time Calder Cup champ. You know,
okay.
So it's like, I don't know, man. Like, it's not lucky.
Will he get his shot in the show? Will he get his shot in the show?
He had a long
been
career,
the assistant.
He had a very long career, played in the NHL a long time. He
Dallas.
He played. He was a coach in Dallas as well. He was interim head coach at some point. So it's like has a incredible experience. Played in Europe. He played everywhere. He coached everywhere. It's the most knowledgeable, leader I've had in behind the bench.
Last couple, and then we're going to finish with a story for the boys. You're a goalie, so obviously be remiss if we didn't ask. Best goalie you've ever played with?
Best goalie I've ever played with? Best goalie I've ever played with. I think the best goalie I played was Phoenix Copley. Phoenix Copley and Eric Comrie. Those two guys, I played with them, and I was always impressed. I was always looking up to them. Not just impressed, like in a sense that's like a cheap. I'm talking about like I felt lucky to be here with them,
Yeah.
And I learned a lot with Cops. I learned a lot about hockey and life and all these things, and we're still good friends, and we keep in touch all the time. But that was he taught me a lot of things on the ice. And I'm not even surprised that he had this much success going to another club and going up to LA and re-signing again.
Yeah,
it's one of the best goalies I've played with. I'm not afraid to say that at all. Hunter Shepard this year was lights out all year round, was MVP of the playoffs as well. My goalie partner this year. Time will tell about his career. He's on the right track for sure. And then Eric Comrie, since we're 17, we've been playing together on and off. I played against each other a few times, and I don't know. I don't think we ever played against each other, but we played together in the Canada kind of system, Hockey Canada wise, and we won together, and that's why I've always looked up to him. He's just always there.
Last one before we go to story for the boys. Who has been your favorite goalie tandem partner? Where you've got the whole season together, your stallmates, you shoot and share, practice is fun, it's loose. You may be having pints away from the rink. Who's that goalie that instantly comes to mind?
Chris Clark.
I don't know who that is.
Because he doesn't play anymore. But that was like the best time I've had, and it was in junior. Chris Clark, and if ever this podcast finds him, he'll know that's true. And keep in touch. We keep in touch all the time. And I love that guy. We played together. We were 17. He was 19. He came to the draft for my draft.
Oh, is that the guy? Yeah.
That season, just Chris Clark. That's it.
What a guy. Right. We'd like to finish things on 4,000 and counting with a story for the boys. I mean, we've had World Junior gold, we've had Linka Cup gold, we've had Spengler Cup gold, we've had AHL gold. Well, where do we finish this podcast?
Where do we finish the podcast? I'm going to tell this story a couple of weeks ago when we were celebrating and partying for the Calder Cup. We had a big barbecue. It's fitting that we ended the year on a big barbecue with the families and everyone because we started it with a pig roast. But the night ended at Permane Bros in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and people know that it's a restaurant, and it turns out to be the best place to go and have a good time on a Sunday night. And it's not a big metropolis. You won't find big clubs in Hershey.
Tiesto's not rocking up behind the deck.
No, he's not. They don't go there. And so we took a party bus from the barbecue to the place, to Permane's, and it got me scared a little bit. But we had the cup, and the roof opened on the bus, just raising the cup while we're driving. And so that was a little scary to me because that could have ended pretty bad with the cup going flying. But that was one of the coolest experiences with the boys and the team. And everybody, everybody was there partying together and celebrating the season, close, tight-knit group. And then they scared me a little bit with the cup almost flying out the bus there, but we kept her intact, and it made it safe. But yeah, I wouldn't do that again. One bump, we were barely one bump on the bus away from disaster happened to our cup.
Be like, yeah, that's your guys' problem. I'm gonna rush. I'll see you later. You can deal with a broken cup. That's not my fault.
That.
Zach, honestly, this has been so much fun. The goalie,
yeah, thank you very much.
The goalies are gonna love it. The players are gonna love it. We've got to talk about some awesome guys. Your career's been interesting. You've had ups and downs, and you've shown that you can battle through any sort of adversity and still go on and reach your goals. We wish you all the best in Russia. I hope to be seeing you maybe back in the NHL someday. Yes, that would be legit, my man.
And if it does happen, then we'll come back and we'll discuss the talk we had a couple minutes ago.
Oh yeah, I'm all for that. We wish you the best,
me, guys. Awesome. I appreciate it, and we'll see you around. We'll keep in touch.
All the best with the newborn, and dad of two is going to be a big deal. So. That's gonna be a great moment for you guys, girls. Don't forget, we have the 4,000 and counting charity game Saturday, the 5th of August, Slough Ice Arena, raising money for the Royal Marsden Children Cancer Charity and the My Name is Dodie Foundation, motor neurons disease. 2 fantastic causes. It's going to be epic. We got like 50 guys. It's going to be fun. Lots of hockey there for you guys. Lots of opportunities for you still to sponsor the event. We're 3 weeks from the off, so please get your tickets. Go to ticketlab.co.uk/4,000 count and get your tickets now. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like. Go follow Zach's career. He's going to be tearing it up in Russia next year. Zach, peace, my man. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.